The wrong jump. The human ship Endeavour floated quietly in the void, its silver hull reflecting faint starlight. It was not a warship, not even a ship built for danger. It was an exploration vessel, small, with a crew of only 12. Their mission was simple: chart new routes, scan unknown systems, and send the data back to Earth. Nothing more, nothing less. But the jump went wrong. Navigator Ellis had checked the numbers 3 times. The computer confirmed the coordinates. Still, when the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, nothing looked right. Instead of an empty sector, they were staring into the blazing heart of a fleet. Dozens of alien warships appeared on their sensors, black metal shining with cold precision. Their hulls were lined with weapons, some larger than the entire Endeavour. The crew froze. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the steady hum of the ship's systems. Captain," Ellis whispered, his voice shaking. "I think we just landed in someone's backyard." Captain Marcus Reed leaned forward in his chair. His face was calm, unreadable. "Not just someone's backyard," he said slowly. "We're inside a fortified sector." And then the message came. A voice thundered through their comms, harsh and alien, translated by their systems into broken human words. "Unknown vessel, you have trespassed into Imperial space. Power down engines, prepare for boarding. Resistance will mean destruction." The threat was clear. The crew looked at each other, pale, wide-eyed, but the captain only smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. "Well," he muttered, "this isn't the first time humanity took a wrong turn." The crew chuckled nervously. It was strange, facing death, and yet they didn't panic. Humanity had seen worse. They had survived worse. The alien ships moved closer, shadows stretching across the Endeavour's hull. They dwarfed the little human vessel. The comparison was laughable, like a mouse surrounded by wolves. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the weapons officer, though their ship barely carried defensive cannons, leaned back in her chair. "Should I send them a fruit basket?" she asked dryly. Even the nervous Ellis laughed at that. The tension broke for a moment. The crew did not cry, did not beg. They joked, calm in the face of death. The aliens expected fear. They got humor instead. Minutes later, grappling beams locked. Onto the Endeavour, the humans were dragged toward the Empire's flagship, a monstrous vessel with wings of black steel stretching a kilometer wide. Its very shadow was enough to make lesser species tremble. Inside, soldiers prepared to greet the humans. They wore armor that shimmered with an eerie blue glow. Each carried weapons designed to tear apart armored beasts. To them, humans were nothing, just another primitive race caught trespassing. But the humans stepped off their ship as if they were walking into a bar. Their boots echoed across the alien docking bay, 12 against hundreds. The alien commander looked them over. His reptilian eyes narrowed. His mouth curled into something close to a smile. He expected begging, pleading, maybe fainting. Instead, Captain Reed stepped forward. He adjusted his simple jacket. No armor, no crown, just a human in plain clothes. His gaze did not waver. "State your identity." The commander barked, his voice echoing. "Humans," Reed said calmly. His voice steady, his eyes sharp. "From Earth." The commander tilted his head, confused. The word meant little to him, just another dot in the galaxy. "And why?" he asked, his tone mocking. "Did your kind dare to enter Imperial space?" Reed smiled again. "Accident," he admitted. "But we don't scare easy." Gasps rippled through the alien soldiers. No fear, no apology, just steady eyes and a voice that carried weight. The commander laughed, a deep, cruel sound. "You are small," he said. "You are weak. You stand before the Empire and you dare to show no fear." Reed shrugged. "Fear's a choice, not one we're making today." Behind him, his crew stood the same way, calm, steady, not even shifting under the dozens of alien weapons pointed at them. For the first time in a very long time, the Empire saw something strange, a species that didn't flinch, didn't kneel, didn't tremble. And the whispers began, from soldier to soldier, from officer to officer. Who are these humans? And why do they stand like predators when all logic says they should cower? The commander narrowed his eyes. He had seen countless races, most falling to their knees at the first threat. But these humans, these strange, stubborn humans, they smiled in the jaws of death. The docking bay fell into uneasy silence. The Empire thought they had caught weak prey. Instead, they had dragged predators into their heart, and the galaxy would never forget this wrong jump. The first meeting. The humans were marched through the vast halls of the Empire's flagship. The corridors glowed with cold blue light. Alien banners hung from the high ceilings. Soldiers lined the walls, armored, armed, and watching. Each step echoed like a challenge. But the humans didn't slow. They walked in formation, shoulders straight, calm as if they had rehearsed this very moment. "Lieutenant," Sarah whispered to Reed. "They're expecting us to fold," she said. "Should we?" Reed smirked. "Not today." The soldiers guided them into a massive chamber. A throne of black stone rose at the far end. Upon it sat a noble draped in shimmering robes. His eyes glowed faintly yellow. His skin looked like polished obsidian. This was Lord Vare, one of the Empire's governors, a man feared even by his own kind. He leaned forward, curiosity burning in his gaze. "So," he said, his voice deep, translated through the ship's systems, "these are the trespassers. These are the humans." The crowd of nobles behind him laughed. Their voices were sharp, mocking. They called the humans tiny prey, primitive wanderers, lost animals. Their words dripped with arrogance, but the humans didn't react. They stood silently, eyes sharp, expressions steady. The mockery rolled off them like rain against stone. Captain Reed finally spoke. "We did not mean to intrude," he said, his tone calm but firm. "Our jump drive malfunctioned. That's all." Lord Vare raised a brow. "And yet here you stand unshaken. Do you not understand where you are? You stand inside the heart of the Empire. One word from me and you will all be ash." The nobles laughed louder at that. Some even hissed like beasts circling prey, but Reed's smile only widened. "Then say the word," he said softly. "And watch what happens." The chamber fell into silence. The nobles blinked, unsure if they had heard correctly. The soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. Lord Vare's eyes narrowed. "You dare," he said slowly, his voice colder now. Reed stepped forward. His boots echoed across the polished floor. "We don't kneel, we don't beg, and we don't flinch," he said. "You'll learn that about humans soon enough." The nobles grew restless. Whispers filled the hall. This was not how prey behaved. Prey begged, prey cried, but these humans stood as if they belonged, as if they were the predators. Suddenly, Lord Vare gestured. A massive alien guard stepped forward. His armor clanked, his weapon glowed. He towered over Reed by at least 3 heads. The guard sneered. "Kneel," he commanded, his voice like a growl. Reed looked him dead in the eye and said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy. The guard shoved Reed in the chest, expecting him to stumble. Instead, Reed stood firm, his feet unmoving, his eyes steady. The shove felt like a breeze against a mountain. The guard blinked in confusion. He shoved. Harder. Reed didn't move. Instead, Reed leaned forward and whispered, "Try again." Gasps filled the chamber. The guard froze. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. Behind Reed, the crew stood the same way. Calm, silent, unshaken. It was not just Reed, it was all of them. The nobles stopped laughing, unease spreading across their faces. Lord Vare's lips curled into a smile, not of amusement but of interest. He saw something different in these humans, something dangerous. "You are bold," he said, "but boldness without power is meaningless." Reed tilted his head. "We have both," he answered simply. The governor's smile faded. He studied them for a long time. The chamber felt colder, heavier, as if the entire ship was holding its breath. At last, Lord Vare leaned back in his throne. "Very well," he said. "If you wish to prove yourselves, you shall face the trial." The chamber erupted in whispers. The trial was infamous across the Empire. No race had ever survived. Without losing half their numbers, it was a public display of dominance, a way to crush the spirit of those who dared resist. But the humans didn't flinch. Sarah raised a brow and muttered under her breath, "Sounds fun." Ellis, the nervous navigator, looked like he wanted to protest, but when he saw Reed's calm face, he forced himself to breathe. "Guess we're in," he whispered. Reed nodded, his voice firm. "Set the time." Lord Vare grinned, his eyes burning brighter now. "Tomorrow at dawn." The humans were led out of the chamber. Soldiers expected them to collapse in fear, to whisper among themselves about death. Instead, the humans walked out the same way they had entered, steady, calm, and unbroken. When the doors shut, the nobles erupted into heated whispers. Some were certain the humans would be slaughtered. Others, less certain now, wondered what kind of creatures could stare down the Empire and smile. In the shadows of the hall, one alien noble leaned to another and whispered, "I think we've just awakened something the galaxy isn't ready for." And in the docking bay, as the humans returned to their quarters, Captain Reed looked out into the void and muttered to himself, "They still don't get it. They think fear controls us." He paused, his eyes narrowing, "But fear never ruled us." The stage was set. The Empire thought they were about to break the humans, but what they would see in the trial would change everything. The trial of weakness. The morning came fast. The humans were escorted from their quarters to a towering arena, carved deep into the flagship itself. It was a place of spectacle, built not just for battle but for humiliation. Thousands of alien nobles filled the seats, their voices mixing into a thunderous roar. Banners of the Empire fluttered above them. The trial was more than a test. It was a show, a performance designed to prove that no outsider could ever match the Empire's might. At the center of the arena, steel gates rattled as monstrous creatures were chained and prepared. These were no ordinary beasts. They had been bred for centuries to kill, creatures with claws that could tear through armor and fangs dripping with venom. Some stood on 6 legs, their armored hides glowing faintly. Others slithered like serpents with burning eyes. The announcer's voice echoed across the chamber. "Behold the trial of weakness," it declared. "Let the trespassers prove their worth or be devoured." The crowd laughed and cheered, expecting blood. They had seen this before. Countless times, always the same. A new species claimed bravery. And then the trial stripped them bare, leaving them broken and begging. But the humans stood calmly at the arena's edge. 12 against beasts that had slaughtered entire squads. Ellis swallowed hard, his hands trembling. "Captain," he whispered, "we can't—" Reed cut him off with a sharp look. "Breathe," he said. "We've survived worse." The gates thundered open. The beasts charged out, their roars shaking the very ground. The crowd screamed with excitement, waiting to see the humans scatter. But the humans didn't scatter. They moved, not with fear, but with precision. Sarah drew a compact human sidearm, illegal in the arena but cleverly concealed. She fired 2 sharp bursts, not to kill but to blind one of the beasts charging too fast. The creature shrieked, its vision burned, stumbling to the side. Meanwhile, Reed grabbed a length of chain that had been thrown into the sand as part of the spectacle. With a swift motion, he wrapped it around the throat of another beast, its massive claws slashed at him. But Reed's stance didn't falter. He pulled hard, muscles straining, until the beast collapsed, choking in the dust. The nobles froze, their cheers faltered. This wasn't prey running in circles. This was a hunt. The other humans moved as one. 2 ducked low, using the arena sand for cover, striking at the beast's weak spots. Another climbed onto the back of a 6-legged brute and drove a sharp piece of metal straight into the joint of its armored hide. They weren't just fighting. They were dismantling, breaking the monsters down like engineers pulling apart machines. Sarah shouted, "Left flank," and instantly 2 humans shifted, blocking a serpent-like beast from coiling around Ellis. Their teamwork was flawless, fast, unspoken. Within minutes, the beasts that had been unleashed to humiliate them were broken. One lay dead, neck snapped. Another thrashed weakly in chains, and the rest circled cautiously as if unsure if these humans were prey at all. The silence of the crowd was deafening. The nobles who had laughed now sat frozen. Some leaned forward, eyes wide, and then the final beast roared. It was the largest of them all. A towering creature with spikes across its back and jaws big enough to swallow a man whole. It lunged, the arena shaking with its weight. The humans didn't run. Reed stepped forward, his eyes locked on the beast, his crew spread out around him, circling. Their movements tight, calculated. The creature slammed down, claws tearing through the sand. But Reed didn't flinch. He slid under its strike, grabbed a spear that had been left in the arena for show and drove it deep into the creature's throat. The beast shrieked, staggered, and collapsed. Reed stood tall over its fallen body, chest rising with steady breaths. The arena fell into silence, no laughter, no jeers, just stunned silence. Then slowly the whispers began. They shouldn't have won. One noble muttered. They aren't supposed to survive. Another whispered. Look at them, said a third, voice trembling. They're not prey. They're predators, Lord Vare, watching from above, leaned back in his throne. His smile returned, sharper now. His eyes glittered with something that might have been respect. Or fear. He rose to his feet and raised a hand. The arena quieted. Instantly impressive. His voice boomed. Very impressive. He studied the humans as they stood calmly among the fallen beasts, blood and dust staining their clothes but not their resolve. You are not like the others, he admitted. But this is only the beginning. The nobles erupted into debate. Some shouted that the humans were dangerous and must be executed immediately. Others argued they could be useful, a weapon to point at enemies. But in the arena, the humans didn't care about the arguments above. They stood tall, eyes sharp, calm even after slaughter. Sarah whispered to Reed, "They thought we'd be scared." Reed's lips curled into a faint smile. They thought wrong. And as the Empire tried to decide what to do with the humans, the galaxy's oldest fear stirred quietly in the hearts of its rulers. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had seen prey that didn't run, didn't cry, didn't kneel. The humans had turned their trial of weakness into a display of strength, and nothing would ever be the same again. The silent weapon. After the trial, the humans were escorted back to their quarters. Soldiers walked with them, but none dared push or mock them now. Their armor still gleamed, their weapons still ready, but their eyes betrayed unease. Whispers ran through the ship like fire. Nobles argued in their chambers. Commanders whispered behind closed doors. The trial was supposed to humiliate the humans, yet the opposite had happened. Inside their quarters, the crew sat in silence for a moment. Ellis finally broke it, his hand still trembling. "We shouldn't be alive," he whispered. "Those things were built to kill, and we—" Reed cut him off, calm as ever. "We adapted," he said. "That's what humans do," Sarah smirked, cleaning blood off her weapon. "We didn't just adapt, we made them look like fools." Reed didn't smile. His eyes were sharp, thoughtful. "That's exactly why they're afraid," he said. The door hissed open. An alien guard entered. Bowing slightly, he looked nervous, his scales twitched under his armor. "The governor demands your presence," he said, his voice stiff. The crew exchanged glances. Reed stood. "Let's not keep him waiting." They were led into a smaller chamber this time. Less grand but more private, Lord Vare sat at a long table, several high-ranking officers and nobles beside him. Their eyes burned with curiosity, suspicion, and something else. Wariness. Vare leaned forward, fingers tapping the table. "You are not what I expected," he said. "Every species breaks. Every species begs, but you." He paused. "You laugh, you fight, you kill beasts like trained predators. Who are you really?" Reed glanced at his crew, then back at the governor. His voice was calm but carried weight. "We're human," he said. "That's all." One of the nobles slammed his fist against the table. "Lies," he hissed. "No primitive world could produce this." Reed tilted his head. "Primitive?" he repeated softly. "Do you know where we come from?" The nobles exchanged looks. Vare narrowed his eyes. "Earth," he said slowly, recalling the name Reed had given earlier. "A world. I've never heard of a backwater." Reed chuckled quietly. "A backwater, yes, but one with oceans filled with predators, jungles that kill without mercy, and storms that can level entire cities." His tone grew sharper now. On Earth, everything wants to eat you. Everything wants to test you. We didn't learn fearlessness from arrogance. We learned it from surviving. The chamber grew quiet. Sarah leaned forward, her voice steady. Your beasts in the arena? They reminded me of home, only smaller. The nobles shifted uncomfortably. The words cut deep. They weren't boasts. They were truths. Spoken plainly, Vare studied them. So you claim your strength comes not from machines, not from numbers, but from the world that raised you? Reed nodded. Our world is our weapon, he said. It shaped us into something you don't understand yet. A silence stretched. The aliens were unsettled, not by shouting or threats, but by the quiet confidence in the humans' voices. Finally, one of the nobles leaned forward, sneering. Strength means nothing without ships, without armies. You are 12, against millions. Reed smiled faintly. 12 is enough, he said. His voice carried across the chamber like a blade slicing through air. The noble froze. Words caught in his throat. Lord Vare's eyes glimmered with curiosity. He wasn't laughing now. He wasn't mocking. He was calculating. Perhaps you are dangerous, he admitted slowly. But danger without control is chaos. Tell me, Captain, do your people intend to challenge the Empire? Reed's smile faded. His eyes grew sharp. We didn't come here to bow. We didn't come here to conquer either. But if you try to chain us, he paused, leaning forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. We'll break those chains and you'll learn why fear doesn't rule us. The nobles recoiled as if struck. One hissed angrily. Arrogant primitives. But the insult felt hollow. Vare leaned back, fingers steepled. He was silent for a long time, watching Reed, studying every line of his face. Finally, he laughed. Not mocking, but intrigued. Very well, he said. If you are predators, then prove it again. Tomorrow you will stand before the council. You will face questions sharper than any claws. If you fail, you die. Reed nodded once, calm as ever. We'll be there. When the humans were escorted back to their quarters, Sarah muttered. The council? Sounds like fun. Ellis groaned. Fun? We keep almost dying. Reed stood by the window staring at the endless stars. His reflection stared back, calm, unshaken. They think strength is about ships, about armies, about empires, he said, softly. But they don't understand our strength isn't loud, it's silent, it's here. He tapped his chest. And here. He tapped his head, the crew fell silent. They knew he was right, and far above. In the dark corridors of power, the whispers grew louder. The Empire had discovered something it couldn't measure, couldn't cage. The humans' silent weapon wasn't their ships or their guns. It was the unshakable spirit that made even predators hesitate the power move. The council chamber was unlike anything the humans had seen before. A vast circular hall carved from black stone, with a ceiling so high it vanished into shadow. Rows of alien nobles sat in ascending tiers, their robes glittering, their eyes sharp and cold. At the very center stood a circular platform, a spotlight of pale light bathing it in silver glow. The humans were led to that platform. 12 figures, surrounded by thousands of eyes. The crowd whispered and laughed quietly. Some muttered that the humans were doomed. Others hissed that they should be executed before they spread their poison of fearlessness. The chamber vibrated with contempt. Reed stood in front, his crew behind him. Calm as ever, his voice was steady. We are here, he said. Let's begin. A council elder rose, tall and thin. His skin shimmered like glass. His voice was sharp as broken crystal. Humans of Earth, he declared. You stand accused of trespass, of arrogance, of mockery of the Empire's laws. Why should we not destroy you where you stand? The chamber erupted with cheers of agreement. Dozens of nobles shouted for blood. Reed waited for the noise to die. Then he raised his head. His voice cut through the hall. Because you can't afford to. The laughter stopped. The hall fell silent. Reed stepped forward. You see us as 12 bodies, he said. 12 intruders. 12 pests. His eyes swept across the chamber, sharp, unblinking. But look again. We are 12 predators standing unarmed in your heart, and still you hesitate to strike. A ripple of unease spread through the nobles. Another council member hissed, her insectoid wings flicking. You dare compare yourself to predators? Sarah's voice rang out before Reed could answer, calm and cold. No, she said. We don't compare ourselves, we are predators. The nobles gasped. Outrage rippled across the chamber. Some shouted threats, others pounded the railing, but Reed didn't flinch. He let the uproar roar around him. Then he raised one hand calmly. The simple motion silenced the chamber more effectively than any soldier's weapon. He leaned forward slightly. His words carried heavy weight. Predators don't ask for respect, they take it. They don't demand loyalty, they earn it. You call this a trial, but we know what it is. Fear. You fear us, you just don't realize it yet. The council erupted again. But this time it was not just outrage. It was confusion, unease, even doubt. Lord Vere, seated among them, watched with a thin smile. He spoke now, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. If what you say is true, then prove it here. Prove your worth in words, not beasts. Another noble stood, his robe flowing like molten silver. Tell us then, humans, he demanded. What power do you hold that rivals the Empire? Reed's answer was simple, his tone quiet but sharp as steel. We survive. The hall murmured, confused. Reed continued, his voice rising. Your empires are built on fear. Your armies are built on numbers. But we come from a world where survival is carved into our bones. Every storm, every predator, every war has tried to break us, and still we stand. Still we rise. Still we adapt. Sarah stepped forward beside him, her eyes cold fire. You tried to break us with beasts, and now you try to break us with words. It will not work. The nobles fell into uneasy silence again. One bold elder sneered. And if we demanded you kneel right now? Reed smiled faintly, his eyes locked on the elders. We don't kneel, he said. Not to beasts, not to storms, not to empires, not ever. Gasps echoed around the chamber. The words hit like thunder. The silence stretched long, and then, unexpectedly, some nobles began to whisper, not in anger but in awe. Lord Vere rose slowly, his gaze heavy on Reed and his crew. Enough, he said. His voice silenced the chamber. The humans have spoken. They are not prey, and if we treat them as such, we will be the fools. The chamber roared with protest. Nobles shouted angrily. Some demanded execution, some warned of danger. But beneath the noise, a seed of something new had taken root. A seed of respect. A seed of fear. As the guards escorted the humans out, Ellis whispered shakily, Captain, I think we just made half the galaxy hate us. Sarah smirked. And the other half fear us. Reed walked calmly down the hall, his voice quiet but firm. Fear is enough, he said. Fear is a weapon. The council had tried to break the humans with words. Instead, the humans had turned the chamber of judgment into a stage of dominance. And now, the Empire itself could not decide. Were these newcomers a threat to crush, or predators too dangerous to provoke the breaking point? The humans were returned to their quarters after the council. The guards walked with stiff movements, their eyes avoiding the crew. Fear had replaced arrogance. Captain Reed sat quietly by the viewport, staring into the endless dark of space. His crew gathered around him. Sarah crossed her arms. They won't let us walk away, she said. They're too proud. Reed nodded slowly. Pride makes empires blind, he said, and blindness always leads to war. He was right. Hours later, alarms rang across the flagship. Red lights flashed, voices screamed through the intercom. Enemy fleet detected, all ships prepare for engagement. The humans exchanged quick glances. Sarah grinned faintly. Looks like the party found us. Through the viewport, they saw it. A rival alien fleet emerging from hyperspace. Massive warships spreading across the void. Their weapons glowed like burning suns. They had come not for peace, but for blood. Inside the council chamber, nobles shouted in panic. Their empire was strong, but the enemy had chosen their moment well. The capital fleet was stretched thin. Only the flagship and a handful of warships stood ready, and 12 humans sat in the middle of it all. Lord Vere summoned Reed and his crew. The guards brought them into the War Command Center, where holograms of the battlefield shimmered in the air. Explosions already dotted the void. Vere's tone was sharp. "This is your chance, humans," he said. "Prove your strength or die with us." Reed studied the hologram, his face calm, his eyes steady. "Your fleet is too slow," he said. "They're fighting like it's a parade. They'll be torn apart." The alien generals hissed angrily. "Silence. Primitive. You know nothing of war." But Sarah leaned forward, pointing to weak spots in the hologram. Right there, and there," she said. "That's where they'll strike next." The generals scoffed, but within minutes, the enemy fleet hit exactly where she predicted. Alien officers turned pale. Reed's voice was calm but carried authority. "You can keep ignoring us, or you can let us help." Lord Vere stared at him for a long moment, then he gave a sharp nod. "Do it," he commanded. Within minutes, the humans were aboard their small ship, the Endeavor. It was nothing compared to the massive warships, a tiny shadow in a storm of giants. But Reed's voice was steady as he gave orders. "We don't need to outgun them. We need to outthink them." The Endeavor darted into the battlefield, weaving between enemy ships like a predator in the dark. The alien warships were slow, heavy, built on raw power, but the human ship was fast, agile, unpredictable. Sarah fired precise shots at enemy weak points, disabling weapons instead of wasting energy on shields. Ellis jammed enemy sensors, creating chaos in their formations, and Reed, calm at the helm, outmaneuvered ships 10 times their size. He moved like a hunter leading prey into a trap. The Empire's officers watched in shock. The humans' tiny ship struck with precision, every move turning the tide. The massive alien fleet faltered, breaking formation under relentless harassment. One by one, enemy ships were crippled, not destroyed by brute force, but cut apart by cunning. On the Council flagship, nobles stood frozen, their voices silent as they watched prey become the deciding predators of the battle. Finally, the enemy flagship turned to retreat. Fire trailed across its hull and its engines flared as it fled back into hyperspace. The remaining ships scattered, broken. The battlefield fell quiet. Only the wreckage of defeated ships floated. In the void inside the command center, silence stretched long. Then slowly, one alien officer whispered, 12 of them, his voice trembling. "Only 12. Another whispered back. "They fight like no species I've ever seen." Lord Vere's eyes narrowed as he studied the humans on the hologram. A slow smile spread across his face, not of mockery, but of realization. "They are not prey," he said softly. "They are the storm." Back on the Endeavor, Sarah leaned back in her seat, wiping sweat from her brow. "Not bad for a tiny ship," she muttered. Ellis let out a shaky laugh. "We just saved an empire with a ship smaller than their cannons." Reed sat quietly at the helm, eyes still locked on the stars. His voice was low, calm, unshaken. "They thought numbers were power," he said. "But numbers mean nothing without will." He turned his head toward his crew. "And our will is stronger than anything they've seen." The crew nodded, silent but proud. In the heart of the Empire, the nobles argued. Some shouted that humans were too dangerous and must be destroyed. Others whispered that they should be honored, even allied. But no one could deny the truth anymore. The humans had turned the tide of a battle where thousands of soldiers had failed. They had proven that fear could not chain them. And for the first time, the Empire looked at humanity not as intruders, but as a force that could not be ignored. The breaking point had come and humanity had not bent. The refusal to kneel. The battle was over, but the galaxy's eyes had only just opened. The humans were summoned once more, this time not by Lord Vere, but by the Emperor himself. The Emperor's throne world was a planet of gold and shadow. Towers pierced the skies, bridges of light stretched across canyons deeper than oceans. Millions of subjects lined the streets as the humans were escorted to the Grand Hall. The hall was larger than cities on Earth, its walls carved with the victories of the Empire, victories that stretched back thousands of years. The ceiling glowed with constellations, a false sky crafted to remind everyone of the Empire's reach. At the far end, upon a throne forged from black steel and crystal, sat the Emperor. His presence was like gravity, pressing down on everyone who entered. Alien nobles bowed low, guards dropped to one knee. The chamber filled with silence as the humans stepped forward. 12 figures stood alone before a being who ruled hundreds of worlds. The Emperor's eyes glowed faintly red. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying across the hall without effort. "Humans of Earth," he said slowly. "You trespassed into my empire. You defied my governors. You survived my trials. And now you have turned a battle meant to destroy us into a victory." The nobles hissed, muttered, some trembling with anger, some with awe. The Emperor's gaze sharpened. "Kneel," he commanded. "Swear loyalty to me, and I will spare your kind. Refuse, and I will erase your world from the stars." The hall grew cold. Every eye was on the humans, waiting, hoping, expecting them to finally break. Captain Reed stepped forward. His boots echoed across the polished floor. His eyes locked with the Emperor's, calm, unshaken. "We don't kneel," he said. The words fell like thunder. The hall erupted. Nobles screamed in outrage. Guards raised their weapons. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The Emperor did not move. His eyes burned brighter. "You dare defy me?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Reed's voice was steady. "We dare," he said, "because we are human, and humans don't bow to crowns, or thrones, or empires. We stand." Sarah stepped beside him, her voice sharp. "You want loyalty? Born of fear. But we don't live by fear. We live by choice. We live by will." The crew formed a line beside their captain, 12 humans standing against the weight of a galaxy. The Emperor rose slowly from his throne, his massive figure towering over them. The air grew heavier, pressing like a storm. Even alien nobles struggled to breathe under the force of his presence. But the humans stood firm, their spines straight, their eyes unblinking. The Emperor's voice rumbled like thunder. "If I strike you down here, no one will remember your defiance." Reed's voice cut through the hall. "They already do," he said. "Your people saw us in the arena, in the council, in the battle. You can kill us, but you can't kill what they've already seen. Humans who do not flinch, humans who do not kneel." The silence was suffocating. The nobles stared, torn between fear and fury. The Emperor studied them for a long moment, his eyes narrowed. Then slowly his lips curled into something strange. A smile, not of mockery but of recognition. "Interesting," he said softly. His voice carried a new weight, not of command, but of respect. "In a galaxy built on fear, you bring something new, defiance." The nobles gasped. Some cried out in protest. "They must be executed," one shouted. "They are too dangerous." But the Emperor silenced them with a raised hand, his eyes never leaving Reed and his crew. "Danger," he said, "is what keeps empires alive." He turned and sat back on his throne, his gaze heavy but no longer hostile. "Very well," he said. "You will not kneel. Then you will walk as free predators in my empire. The galaxy will remember this day." The guards lowered their weapons reluctantly. The nobles whispered furiously, but none dared oppose the Emperor's decree. The humans turned to leave, their heads high, their steps steady. No chains, no bowed backs, only defiance carved into every step. Outside, as they returned to their ship, Ellis let out a shaky laugh. "We just told an emperor to his face that we don't kneel," Sarah smirked, "and we're still breathing." Reed's face was calm, his eyes on the stars. "We're not just breathing," he said. "We've made them see us, and once they see us, they'll never forget." The Endeavor lifted off, rising into the endless dark. Behind them, an empire whispered with fear, respect, and uncertainty. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's predators looked over their shoulders, and they saw humans, standing tall, unbroken, refusing to kneel.